Hello, beautiful people. My name is Samson Williams, and you're joined us for the Crowdfunding Professional Association's webinar on construction estimating for crowdfunding. So as a disclaimer, the gentleman on the other side of this camera, he's the uglier version of my brother, Matthias. So Matthias, happy to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much. That's the handsomer version of Matthias on the other end of the screen. So everybody can know.
And so often in crowdfunding, people, they think, hey, real estate, particularly for Reg A plus crowdfunding, is phenomenal. Last year, they did $2 billion, not specifically for real estate, but real estate made up a chunk of that $2 billion raised via Reg A plus. And we see that in the Reg CF space, whether you're looking at buy the block or small change, we have dedicated platforms specifically to real estate. And by real estate, it's generally single family homes, duplex, triplexes, and a few apartment buildings. And so by popular demand, people were asking, hey, we don't understand construction. We don't understand budgeting, particularly now that the cost of raw materials have gone up. And so I was like, let me get my brother. He's a general contractor down there in the state of Florida to walk us through some of the challenges that happens in commercial real estate, in retail renovations, because often people who they're not going into real estate investing, they're going to buy a building to do a business in that. And when they go to buy that building, there's some interesting things that happen. Matthias, introduce yourself and then just tell us briefly about this lady in her bathroom.
Hi, I'm Matthias, owner and qualifier for Macbeth Construction. Qualifier means I am the person with whom the license is under. My knowledge base is the knowledge base by which we do work. It's not the only knowledge base because we have a lot of other people, but I'm the guy who took the certifications and got the licenses to do the work. Yeah, today I was telling you about a lady who called me. She had just purchased or just leased a new 1,000 square foot space. And she told me she wanted to put in a beauty salon in there. And one of the first questions I asked her was, one, how big the space was. And she had 1,000 square feet. And she told me she started going on about all the things she wanted to do in the space. You know, make it pretty, create the entrance, have the reception, have the place where she's doing people's hair, all the colors, get all the dust and cobwebs and dirt from the black ceiling because she had an open ceiling and she wanted to close that ceiling. She was talking about doing a lot of stuff. So when I was talking to her, I asked her what her budget was. And because that tells me about how much people understand the construction process that they're about to go through. And first, she didn't want to say, because no one really wants to say, because what they're trying to do is they think by telling you their budget that you will create that you will fill their budget no matter what. Well, that may be the case. It's really important to understand what a customer's budget is. Her budget, once I told her the basic range, and then she told me, oh, that's a lot. And she told me her budget was $5,000. And then I told her to send me some pictures so I can see about what she was dealing with. After sending me the pictures, I noticed that in the bathroom, that it was not the current Florida Building Code ADA bathroom. And I told her that she probably needed another ADA bathroom. And she said, but there's grab bars in there. You know, the grab bar they put on the side and the grab bar they put on the back is a 48-inch grab bar here. There's a 36-inch grab bar in the back. And those are standard. But just because there's grab bars doesn't mean it is an ADA bathroom. And though she had those grab bars, she still lacked the current ADA bathroom requirements. And a basic ADA bathroom, to put it in, is about $20,000 to $30,000 just off the bat. So I told her she needed to look up, call her city to get a certificate of occupancy and what they would require, because I didn't want to bust her bubble just yet. But know that she has a long row ahead because she hasn't planned properly for after she bought the space.
So one of the things that why I felt this story was so interesting, if you're in the crowdfunding space, you may be raising money to go remodel a building to get a lease. And so just off the bat, it's building code and ADA compliance, not only for your bathroom, but anything else. And then one of the things that you can do right off the bat before we get into the nitty gritty is go ask the city what you require for a certificate of occupancy. Because that way, when you go to retain a general contractor or someone to ask them for an estimate, the city will have told you, here's your checklist of things you need to be repaired. And that gives you a little bit more confidence to say, okay, I've engaged this contractor, I'm talking to them, so they can provide me costs for these things that I know the city requires for my inspection. So I just wanted Matthias to share that story before we jump into our PowerPoint conversation for today. So Matthias, why are we here? Walk us through this.
Well, we're here if you have construction questions about construction process questions, what order things go in, what should come before something else, and how that process is created, how it begins, and what's the end look like. Second, what are the construction costs? Nowadays, construction costs are skyrocketing. What things cost pre-pandemic is nothing to what they cost today. If someone told you a bathroom costs $5,000 to remodel in 2019, that same bathroom is probably going to cost you $15,000 to remodel in 2022. That's how much the prices have gone up and the cost per square foot has gone up. So we're going to discuss a little bit about cost per square foot and how to get the right cost estimating for your construction project. Or if you just need to add to your foundation of knowledge. Let's say you've done some projects, but maybe you haven't done any in the state of Florida. The things I'll be talking about today apply specifically to the state of Florida. However, the state of Florida has very stringent rules, and they typically apply in most of the metropolitan areas around the United States, especially from a federal permitting perspective and access, ADA access that's required in buildings.
Awesome. So break us down. What's a feasibility study and why are we starting here?
Okay, feasibility study. Basically, a feasibility study will let you know if the idea you have is even possible. First, we go with the building size, how many square feet it is, the volume, how much space will be under air conditioned, the shape of it, what you're going to use it for. All those things will determine what the construction costs are. Do you want to build a hospital? Do you want to build a hotel? Do you want to build a multi-family unit? And each one of those different structures have different regulations around them. In addition to that, you'll need to know, is there sufficient power coming into the building? Most buildings nowadays that were outfitted more than 30 or 40 years ago don't have sufficient power. So when you see an old building, one of the things it may need is brand new power, how that power is brought to the building, or if you have a space, empty land, you know where the power is coming from, where the sewer is, how to connect it. Next is zoning, whether or not the thing you want to do is legal to be able to put there. If you want to build like a marijuana grow house, for instance, there's only so many zoning areas in some cities where you can put a marijuana grow house. If you want to put a liquor store, it has to be so many feet from so many different areas. A lot of different facilities have zoning requirements. If you want to buy a piece of land and thinking you're going to put a 50-story building on it with 100 units on it, but it may only be zoned for a triplex. There's a lot of different zoning requirements. There's height requirements. There's line of sight requirements. Depending by city, there's road access requirements. There's parking lot requirements. So you need to have enough space for the facility that you want to build. And also, if it's an existing space, how are you going to make accessibility modifications? Most of those old buildings that were built more than 20 years ago have not gone under the scrutiny of a modern day permit. And what that means is hallways need to be widened, bathrooms need to be enlarged. Um, the place needs to be made completely accessible. Typically, that means removing most of the interior walls, interior doors, and rearranging them in a different, more inviting configuration.
And so just to be clear, when you say accessibility modifications, you're really talking about American with Disability Act modifications.
Correct.
Okay, and I do want to point out, if you're considering going into the crowdfunding for marijuana businesses, which is a very hot vertical within crowdfunding, you can do that. But to Matthias's point, as you go to raise funds to launch your dispensary, your grow house, et cetera, make sure that the property you've identified is in the right zoning area, because you don't want to raise funds and then it turns out you can't actually build there.
1,000 feet minimum from a school. That's a zoning requirement in Florida for a dispensary.
Excellent. If you have additional questions, I know Matthias has worked on a few dispensaries down there in Florida, but tell us about a plan. Why does Oprah want to give everyone a plan?
Well, if you don't have a plan for your vision, it's basically hallucination. And that is exactly how the construction process will feel while you're going through it. It'll feel like you're going through a crazy hallucination nightmare if you do not create a plan. A plan establishes the most important elements of your construction process. You establish your budget. It establishes the plan that you're going to create to make it happen, what comes before what. And this is the point you choose all your finishes, and that solidifies what your final cost will be. Planning also allows you to order materials well in advance. It allows you to choose better finishes. Let's say you want a marble look. You have this idea that you want a marble grand look. And this is the moment where you choose your finishes to make better indecisions according to how your budget is. And this is also the time where you do the scheduling. Once you decide on your space, you need to decide when you're going to fill it with all your merchandise. And the time in between the time you rent your unit and your day of opening, all that is the time you have for your scheduling. How everything goes in order to make that happen is extremely important. If you're building a store, let's say it's like a store like a Bath and Body Works or Victoria's Secret store, it's 5 to 12,000 square feet. You have a day that all merchandise needs to arrive and be placed on the shelves. On that day, all your store needs to be 100% complete and ready for operation. If that does not happen, the cascade of events, well, just say that should not happen. The cascade of events after that will ruin all profits for the next 3 to 4 years if you do not plan that properly. And this also gives you time to get specialty material procurements for special displays that you want to have, cash wraps, finished materials, or special looks that we get from all around the world and we bring in. All those need time to come in and be staged properly.
So just using the example of a dispensary we just talked about, hypothetically, you go out, you say, hey, I'm going to raise $3 million for this dispensary. Of that 3 million, 1 million is for the building itself. You made sure that the building is zoned correctly, but you still need $1 million to renovate the building, bring it up to code, put in your specialty security features, et cetera. Right. How long from, let's say, your crowdfunding campaign, you get really good at it, so it takes you 120 days from start to finish. So let's say you start in January, May 1st, you've concluded your crowdfunding campaign, you raise your $3 million. What does that timeline look like for construction for this new space you're going to renovate now?
So, well, during your crowdfunding time, you have solidified all of your pre-construction elements. What that means, you have your budget, your planning, your finishes, your scheduling, all your material procurement in place, ready to go. From that moment, You apply for the permit. That takes about 45 to 60 days for a complex kind of project. And from there, let's say you're looking at a 3,000 square foot space, 2 to 3,000 square foot. It's a basic space for any kind of commercial space. You're looking at a 12-week build time.
12 weeks.
That's a complete gut relocation of bathrooms and complete rebuild opening day. You're looking at approximately 12 weeks.
Mhm. So I just want to be clear to everyone, as because we came out of the feasibility, we're at the pre-construction planning. As part of that, I want you to know, after your crowdfund campaign ends, let's say you're really good at it, you're on top of things, it ends in 4 months. At the end of month 4, going into month 5, you still have another 45 to 60 days for permits, because any work that you do, it definitely needs to be permitted. Once you get your permit, now you're in month 6, or going into month 7, you still have another 4. How much time again is that for? Another
12
4 months?
weeks. That's
12
3
weeks.
months.
So you have another 3 months on top of that, which brings you right around month 10. That's from the end of your entire process for your hypothetical cannabis operation is, again, this is super streamlined because it only took you 4 months to raise the funds, took you 2 months to get the permitting, then it took you another 3 months to actually renovate before you can open the door. You need to know this as part of your planning for your overall business. That way you can be in constant communication with your investors. Because hopefully you raise your $3 million from 30,000 people, and you want to tell 30,000 people when your first day of opening is, and make sure that 10% of them show up. So Matthias, now we're going to get into some of the nitty gritty. I see some terms like vanilla box, refresh, and remodel, and some costs associated with them. Explain these to us.
Okay, so it's about square footage. The more square footage you have, the more expensive it is. Your smaller spaces are like 1,000 square feet. Your average commercial space is somewhere between 2 and 4,000 square feet. That's like the sweet spot in a mall or a strip shopping center. It's about 1,500 to 3,000 square feet. To make a vanilla box, what that means is it's an existing store. To get it down to bare minimum and have an ADA bathroom in it, you're looking at $40 a square foot. Whatever you're doing, if you want to do flooring, if you want to paint your walls, you're looking about $40 a square foot. So whenever you think about it, you want to change your floor and you're buying a floor that costs $2 a square foot, that same floor is going to cost you $1 a square foot to remove and another $4 to $5 a square foot to install. And that'll, plus that $2 is about $8 to $10 a square foot just to replace the floor. So imagine out of that $40, $10 of it just went to replace your floor. Okay, so another few dollars goes to update your electrical to modern code, update your plumbing, put in a few new lights, repaint the entire space, and you're at about $40 a square foot. If you have an existing space and you need to refresh it, well, refresh means doesn't necessarily mean remove the existing surfaces, but it means all the existing surfaces in the space get touched and refreshed, repainted. Bathrooms typically get relocated or enlarged, added office space, maybe an AC needs to be replaced, and brand new. That typically means brand new floors, and existing ceiling gets refreshed. If it's acoustical ceiling, gets brand new acoustical tiles. If it's drywall ceiling, it gets painted. That doesn't include any kind of sprinkler work. And you could typically get into a space for around $90 a square foot on the low end. All these numbers are all low end numbers, meaning they're basically the minimums you're looking to spend when you walk into a brand new space. A refresh typically includes a permit of some sort. A vanilla box may not require a permit. A remodel means complete relocation of plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems within an existing space, all new walls, all new floor, all new ceilings. 2,000 square foot space is about $300,000. That's materials, labor, everything included in that. That includes your set of plans, your architect, um, your permit, your inspections, your final fire inspections, and it may include some minor sprinkler head relocation due to wall relocation, relocating walls or something like that. But that is, again, these are minimum numbers. The other, if you want a brand new from scratch, you're looking at about $300 a square foot in Florida right now for brand new from scratch. If you were to contract someone out next week to build a basic build office building with office spaces inside.
So I just want to, two clarifications. It's the Samson, for those of us joining us on the radio, it's the Matthias Williams from the Crowdfunding Professional Association. We're getting a briefing from Matthias from Macbeth Construction on the cost of construction. Matthias, you've broken it down really well for commercial buildings and retail space. And you mentioned plans, architects, and inspections. And just remember, if your general contractor is not going to get you inspections and permits, you're gonna be in more hot water down the road. So don't do that. But I do want to ask you, if you're an investor, you're doing a crowdfunding raise, and you raise, say, $500,000 for a single family home, what is the approximate cost for a single family home if you're going to remodel it or build it from the ground up?
Ground up is about $250. Additions are about $180 to $220. Interior remodels are about $70. That's about a minimum with readily available materials from Home Depot or Lowe's. And you wouldn't be vanilla boxing a home, but if you are going to completely refresh it, like if you bought a home and you're about to Airbnb it out, you're probably going to spend about $14 to $15 a square foot to get it all redone. You're probably going to put some vinyl plank flooring in there, repaint the whole thing, new trim, new doors, and maybe some windows and stuff like that. And that'll run you about $20 a square foot, around there, $20 to $25 a square foot to do something like that. And that's a bare minimum cost.
Mm-hmm. So you're giving us these estimates in April 2022 costs. They seem like they're higher than they were just this time last year. Is this an assumption of mine, or is this something you're seeing in the market?
No, they are higher. All construction prices are considerably higher. Material prices are considerably higher. The cost of lumber and the cost of steel are going up. As a matter of fact, we sent out a quote for some steel for a home the other day. And when we got the quote, it said the price was only good for 24 hours because of the fluctuating price of steel. So if the customer didn't accept it within that 24 hours, we have to re-quote the entire steel purchase because the cost of steel is going up literally every 24 to 48 hours here in Florida and all over the world. So construction prices are going up, labor prices are going up, and because of the supply and demand, general prices for people that actually show up are going up.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So just remember, as you're calculating your crowdfunding budget, not your crowdfunding budget, but as you're calculating your project needs, so that when you go to crowdfund, some of your costs will be variable. So if you're doing it super quick and it only takes you 4 months, the price of steel or concrete, gypsum, etc., in January, the cost may have changed dramatically by April. So you need to account for that in your final budget. Just keep that in mind, because the worst thing you can do for your construction project, for your crowdfunding construction project, is don't raise enough money. You don't want to be a couple $100,000 short because the price of just raw materials has gone up.
Yeah, just in December, we got notified from most of the supply houses that
Mhm.
all the prices were going up 15% in December. And then just last month, we got another notification they were going up 10 more percent as of April 1st. Um, so that's a significant rise just in the past 3 to 4 months in base costs for things. Transportation costs for getting materials to the job site, delivery costs are going up as we speak.
Because when I hear costs are going up across the board, sounds like it's a great time to be an existing landlord who's going to remodel. So, as we think about this, tell us about value engineering. What is it and why is it important?
So value engineering comes into place when you have a ideas that are way up here, but a budget for it that is a way down here. I
Mhm.
want the porcelain Rolls Royce look on a Walmart Target budget. So that's where the magic of value engineering comes in. Instead of getting marble floors that may cost $45 or $125 a square foot to install, like they do in some Victoria's Secrets, they install planks that look like tile, that's ceramic, that only costs $6 a square foot. Instead of that, if you want to go even cheaper, you go with vinyl plank flooring that has a 20-year warranty and that just floats. How your wall systems go up, how much insulation you put inside, and the R value of your windows, how your roof system is created, your energy systems from your HVAC systems that you have on site, and how you regulate them. Um, Traffic patterns and the interior experience of your customers. How do you optimize the experience that they're going to have so that they spend the most time and dollars in your store? How do you create the space, walk and flow through, and provide the colors necessary to get them to stay in a space longer? Because the longer they stay there, the more money they're gonna spend. And that's where value engineering comes in. That happens through the full pre-construction process. During the value engineering, a price may start at $500,000 budget, and you can bring it down to like 400,000 or 410,000 by keen value engineering.
It's super quick. I'm going to check to see if we have any questions. If there's any questions, I don't want to miss them. Let me stop sharing my screen right quick. No, I don't see any questions, but remember, if you have a question, just drop it down into the chat there, and we'll get to these questions. And I just want to go back to traffic patterns. Initially, I was thinking outside. He's talking about if you're building a retail store and you have people coming in and out of your store, remember, think of it like you're a casino owner, is you can get in, but then you have to go by every machine before they'll let you out. So keep that in mind.
It's why they relocated the cash wraps from the front of the store like 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Now the cash wraps are all at the back of stores because they want people to walk all the way through the store before they are able to purchase something. And that way they spend more time inside the store. So all the stores were remodeled to put the cash wraps in more strategic locations for more selling.
Good to know. And a cash wrap is also known as a cash register. So we've talked about value engineering. We're talking to Matthias Williams from Macbeth Construction here at the Crowdfunding Professional Association. And we're talking about that intersection of construction and crowdfunding, getting into some of the details of construction. And tell us about this mitigating risk with the right contractor. Why is that important?
Well, the primary way you mitigate risk is by hiring someone who knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
Someone who's licensed by either state, city, or county. And it goes pretty much like that in levels of expertise. If you have a county license, you're probably less experienced than a city guy with a city license or a state license. Okay. Macbeth Construction, we have a state license, the state certified general contracting license, which allows us to build buildings of any size, shape, or form in the state of Florida of any height. If you're a building contractor, you could only build up to 2 stories in height. And if you are a residential contractor, you can only build residential homes up to 2 stories. Or if you're a county contractor, you can only do that inside any individual county. So it's important when you're hiring a contractor to understand, do they have the licenses to do the work? You'll need various licenses. The main one is a general contractor's license, which we hold. We also have under our umbrella plumbing license, state plumbing license, state mechanical license, solar license, underground utility licenses, and licenses like that that allow us to have better workflow in our work processes. And one thing you must take into consideration is their composite book of experience. And by their composite book of experience, that also means the specialty trades that they have under their umbrella and their subcontractors. Typically, a general contractor is not going to have all of the subcontractors in their wheelhouse. They'll sub out electrical, they'll sub out plumbing or HVAC, especially in intricate and complex projects like hotels, hospitals, multifamily units. All those have very specific trade specific knowledge that you need to have, and having a right subcontractor that has that kind of experience is extremely important for specialty trades, especially if you want specialty items, really nice marble flooring, specialty windows on the front, or any other niche object in your space. It's very important to have the right contractor that has that kind of experience to do it. Otherwise, you'll have something like this picture with the air conditioning sticking out backwards.
Fair enough. Good point. We do have a question for you. When creating the budget, do you think it's better to create 2 budgets, needs versus nice to have budgets? Or do you suggest making a list of everything you want and then cut it down from there?
I would start with what's required to get my certificate of occupancy first and what that cost, then put all the little accoutrements on what I want it to look like and be like. Because if you don't have the money for the basics, the electric, the ADA requirements, making doorways accessible, then you're not going to have money for the rest. So first, apportion the amount of money you need for your basics, and then decide how much investment you're going to put into attracting your customer and keeping them inside the store, and how much and what the return on that investment looks like.
Mm-hmm. So you answered the question for on the retail commercial side, but if it's residential, are there ADA requirements for residential work?
There are no ADA requirements for residential work. There are basic opening and measurement requirements for all homes, like in the state of Florida. They all require a certain number of outlets. They all require a certain number of windows and size. They require shutters or hurricane windows. The front doors need to be hurricane rated or not. GFCI outlets inside the kitchen and inside the bathrooms. Smoke detectors that go off synchronously throughout when one goes off. All those would be under the book of basics for residential. And that typically costs probably around $7 to $10 a square foot for any home to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then from there, you can go back with what you want.
Good to know. And again, a lot goes into planning not only your crowdfunding campaign to raise the money for your real estate investment or your real estate endeavor. When we say a real estate endeavor, remember, if your business requires commercial real estate to operate inside, you're actually in the real estate business as well, in addition to your business. Whether your business is your taco shop, a cannabis shop, or a chiropractor, you still might want to remodel that space or need to acquire space and then remodel it. So just keep that in mind. So Matthias, as we proceed along next, mitigating risk, insurance, workers' comp, why are these important for?
When you're hiring the right contractor, part of hiring, I added this in here because it's so important. Hiring the right contractor also means that that contractor has the right kind of insurance. He has a general liability insurance. He's got workers' compensation that covers you in the case of any mishap on the job site. Workers' compensation versus exemption means workers' compensation means they have a workers' compensation policy in place that will cover the workers that come out onto your job, onto your location. And if they get injured, they are covered from an insurance perspective for that injury and their loss of work and whatnot. An exemption means that they give you a little piece of paper that says you're not responsible if we fall or get injured on your job site. That exemption only applies to the actual owner of the company if they're doing the work, but it doesn't apply to his workers or to his helpers or people that they bring out there. So if they're not covered, your own personal general liability insurance for your building or for your space will cover it, or your pocketbook will. Next are lien waivers. Make sure when you get your work, every time you pay your general contractor, that you get a lien waiver from him that says, I have paid every Joe, Blow, and Schmo that has been out here on the job site and every supplier that has supplied materials to your job site. And when he gives you that paper, that releases you from responsibility. If you do not get that paper from him, then you have not been released from liability. If Joe comes back a month later after you've opened and said, hey, Mark's Construction owes me $5,000 for something I did there, you have to pay me. If you tell him I'm not paying you, he'll just put a mechanics lien on your place. And most malls do not allow mechanics liens, and that's a whole different story. But in the end, you will end up paying him again for the work if you do not get that lien waiver. Very important.
I have two questions coming in. How often do projects, residential commercials, miss deadline? What are some causes for delay?
I don't know for sure on a commercial side. We've never missed a deadline for a store opening. I would say in general, stores don't miss deadlines. You have lots of merchandise that's supposed to come. You've hired dozens of people to start work. You cannot really afford to miss a deadline. If you're supposed to open May 1st and have 20 people start working, you've hired them months before and they're all waiting to go May 1st. That's mostly about hiring the right contractor, getting the proper planning and strategy in place. I don't know what happens when you don't hit a deadline. I suppose it just becomes expensive. Everybody gets frustrated. No one can come to work. Merchandise gets piled up and it becomes very, very, very expensive. In some contracts, they have liquidated damages for when that happens if you don't meet your deadline. For homes, it happens sometimes because of permits, inspections, and lower budgets for those kind of things, and lower budgets for round-the-clock work. And in those cases, it should be flagged well before the end date is supposed to come. So they should easily know and be able to create a new completion date if there are no permit issues or violations during the work process that's taking place. And as long as you have a good plan to start with. If you do not have a plan to start with, there's no sense in giving a end date because it will just finish whenever it finishes.
That's a good point. So just remember, in part of your pre-construction planning phase, when you're doing your scheduling, Matthias brought up a good point. If you're in a commercial space, a retail space, and you're going to open up June 1st, you're going to have to do all the hiring actually in April if you want to interview them, get them on board, train them during the month of May so you can open up in June. So this is why it's super important to have that plan, stick to that schedule so you can actually hit your grand opening day whenever that happens to be. I do have another question. about going back to workers' comp or insurance, is there a good reason why a contractor would get an exemption? Sounds like you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, a lot of contractors get exemptions because workers' comp is extremely expensive. And getting them an exemption allows them to do work legally. That's why it's very expensive.
No, that's understandable. The cost is what the cost is because you got to make sure you're
Yeah.
going with the right person. It's very similar to when you're organizing your crowdfunding campaign. Lots of folks don't get lawyers to help them with the securities law aspects of it. But I always encourage people, get a lawyer up front to help organize your crowdfunding campaign. That way you won't have all these problems. And it's very similar to building or to remodeling or building out a commercial space as is for launching your campaign, because you need to start with your feasibility, you need to start with your planning, and then you need to stick to your plan. So remember, whether you're trying to raise money for your construction project or you're actually executing your construction project, plan, 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 plan away. So as we move on in our conversation with Matthias Williams from Mattbeth Construction here at the Crowdfunding Professional Association, we're going to talk about construction contracts. Why do construction projects need contracts, Matthias?
You need contracts to be able to just say what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and what the time frame is. If you don't have any of those things written down, none of the things you want to happen will actually happen. Something else will be created in its absence. In the absence of a contract, some other end product will be created that you did not want. And in your contract, you need to have your payment terms, whether you have progressive draws or draws on inspection. You need to identify how you're going to tackle change orders and from what budget these change orders, these magical change orders, are going to be paid from. Also, what the actual scope of work is, meaning we're going to do this, this, and this. And once it's delineated, you can make sure that those items are the things completed. Typically, on a construction contract, if you have a set of plans created by an architect, that set of plans is the scope of work. And that's why it's important to have an architect do a set of plans. You also establish what the timeline is, and it tells you when the project will be completed and what the recourse is if it isn't. And also for dispute resolution. Whenever there's a problem, you need to know what the process is going to be to solve it. And your construction contract will help delineate all of these items and prevent a lot of headaches later on, because it'll give you a roadmap to how the project will go, how long it will take, and how you're going to resolve any disputes that you may have.
So I do want to go back because we've talked about a lot. We've talked about feasibility study, pre-construction, making sure you're right zoning. This might have been the first time you mentioned an architect and an architect plans. And the architect plans are generally the scope of work. How much do plans cost? And is architecture and the architect a separate line item, or is that rolled in underneath your general construction?
A general contractor and an architect are typically separate. Some general contractors like us, we provide an architect in-house in architectural services that do the entire planning for you and will create the set of plans. But typically it is separate, and it's a separate line item costs. Plans for permitting, architecturals. If you're looking at a 2,000 square foot basic tenant improvement space, you're probably looking at $7,500 for architecture. You'll have plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and the master set. So that's about $7,500 to $10,000 for that set of plans. And that set of plans is the roadmap by which all your project will be created. And it's the thing that you create in the feasibility study, you create like the sketch. In the pre-construction planning, you create the actual set of plans.
That's super good to know. So again, your architect might be separate from your general contractor. As you go about your crowdfunding project, Just remember, you need to account for these minutiae, these not minutiae, these details in them. We have another question. Do you typically provide updates on progress of the project? If so, how? Is it in writing? I imagine that updates could be passed on to crowdfunding investors.
Yes, we use a project management software that our customers interact with us with. So they get weekly updates and they get daily logs about how the work progress goes and how the workflow goes. They simply log in, or they'll get email updates on a weekly basis, typically every Monday morning or every Friday afternoon, on where where we are in the progress, how it sets on the schedule, and if we're going to hit our deadlines or not. Those are for typically residential. For commercial spaces, we give progress daily because every single day matters. So we'll set a daily log every single day with updated pictures and video, 360 video of the space that allows a customer to see everything that's going on, where we are in the process, and make sure we're getting there like we're supposed to.
Good point, good point. And so keep in mind, if you're a key part of your crowdfunding success isn't just raising the money, it's engaging your investor base. Because again, if you raise that $3 million from 30,000 people, and each of these people have put in 99 bucks, you have a community of 30,000 that you need to keep engaged. Because again, you want 10% of them to show up your opening day, and you want to make sure you're sticking to your construction schedule so they all show up in force. So we've come to our end here, Matthias, and I'll see if we've got some great questions from the audience. If there's any other questions, let us know, because we're going to wrap this up in a little bit. And of course, if there's any other thing that have popped into your head that you want to share with us, let us know what those are as well. So as we take a pause, our attendees are thinking about their questions. I wanted to go back over some things, and just to be clear, cost per square foot, I have somewhere between $70 and $2,000 a square foot. Why the range?
That's really what it is. If you want something straight out of the book from Home Depot, you can get it for as little as $70. If you want something extremely custom homes, custom bathroom, any kind of custom look, wallpaper on the wall, gold leaf, you could go up to $2,000 per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
We've never done anything for more than $2,000 a square foot, but I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. That didn't mean someone had a very successful crowdfunding campaign. So tell us a little bit more about a construction contract. Who generally writes those? Do you write those, or does the person raising funds write those?
Generally, your general contractor has a contract that he uses. You can also, as the crowdfunder, use what's called the AIA contracts, which are more used for large facilities and municipalities with subcontractors, and they give very favorable terms to the owners. Those are AIA contracts. Otherwise, the general contractor will have his own contract, as we do, and you can negotiate the terms of that contract. Basically, almost every page on it is a negotiable page.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. So one final question for you as we go to wrap up here. First off, thanks for joining us here at the Crowdfunding Professional Association as we talk to Matthias Williams from Macbeth Construction about some of the ins and outs and cost of construction, because again, we have dedicated crowdfunding platforms from Buy the Block to Small Change that are dedicated to helping people raise money for construction projects, for real estate projects. And so just reiterate for us, what are the 3 things everyone who's looking to go into single family rentals, to build single family rentals, what are the 3 things they need to know? Go.
They want to build single family rentals?
Sure.
$200 per square foot. Good architect, and find a general contractor that gives you tight scheduling and is willing to work around the clock to build your space. Because it's really a matter of how fast can you get it to rental time, because time is money.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you very much, Matthias. I do want to beg your attention. Okay, we have one final question. Is there generally a warranty for the services and our materials involved?
Yes. Typically, electrical all have the same warranties by the products that are purchased, like your HVAC will have a 10-year warranty. And generally, your general contractor on a brand new home provides a 10-year warranty. It's like a little form, 10-year warranty form. In general, on all renovations, there's a minimum of 1-year warranty in the state of Florida. But you can always negotiate for additional warranty and purchase warranty from your insurance provider.
Good to know. Always ask them for your 10-year warranty, particularly on that new construction. Matthias, if people want to find you on the internet, how do they locate you?
Look us up at mattbeth.com, MATTB like boy, ETH.com. You can text us at 954-418-2336. And the best way to like us and to support us is to go on Instagram and Facebook, like and comment and share all our amazing content.
Thank you very much. And for everyone listening and tuning in, thank you for joining the Crowdfunding Professional Association. We love doing these educational webinars to give anyone thinking about leveraging crowdfunding a little bit more insight so that they understand not only how to do crowdfunding, but some of the particulars of their unique business verticals, specifically in construction. So that's it for the moment. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on social at CFPA, Crowdfunding Professional Association, CFPA, and we look forward to seeing you all in our next educational webinar later next month. So stay tuned for additional details. See you all later. Thanks, Matthias.
Thank you.